Hey, Nerd Herd, it's Dynasty. We're back. This time, we're talking about some running back sells. Fluid position. When's the right time to get out from a running back? We got some guys to talk about.
And I somehow loop in one of my favorite young quarterbacks, and Rich goes on a little bit of a tangent.
He does. I don't know why we ever talk quarterbacks on a running back show, but we also might have tricked Matt into making one of his sells a buy.
Got me hooked.
Ready, set, hut, hut. Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Rich Dotson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
He's Garret Price.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty swell because we're talking about sells.
Going pretty what?
I said pretty sells.
It's going pretty sells because we're talking sells.
We're talking sells. I was going to say it's going pretty swell.
Sells and swells.
My mouth moves fast. Sometimes too fast.
Is it your mouth that moves fast or your brain?
All the above.
All right. One of them is moving faster than the other. I'm just trying to figure out
which one's the culprit here.
I'm a slippery, slithery snake. So we're talking sells. Yeah.
Get them out of here.
So kind of like last show we said, hey, you should only be buying running backs when you're a contender.
Correct.
Now the opposite is if you're not a contender, you should always be selling running backs.
Correct.
Always. They're definitely the guys we're going to talk about, which are usually younger running backs that either just came out of nowhere or we think the window's not as long. And I'm going to say this too, like both my guys are not must sells, but these are the kind of guys I'm trying. These are the guys I think that could be on non-contender teams. Let me put it that way. The sell, because like for the most part, a lot of these guys are going to be on contender teams. Like a Saquon Barkley is most likely on a contender's team, right? Like a lot of these guys are like over the age of 26, 27.
Sure.
They're going to be a contender's team. You know, Jonathan Taylor was like in that range as well. Like I consider him a sell. If he's in that range, I didn't put him on my list. But they should, running back should always be for contenders only. Really, that's the way I view them. If I'm not a contender, you know, it's a two-way. It's a two-way win, right? Like not only do you get a good value in return, but now your team, if you have no starting running backs, guess what? Your team's gonna lose.
Can't get many points.
And people can't call you tanking if you have no running backs to start.
Yep. If you're going to the waiver wire, picking up a guy that might get a couple of carries.
Yeah. Pierre Strong. I hope you get a carry.
Yeah. Oh, I had a team last year where like my top running back was Kenneth Gainwell. And he was like the best back I had. And they're like, dude, I was like, What other options do I have? Who else do I start?
Yeah,
it was Kenneth Walker and Rochaad Johnson were my two starting running backs. Like, it's the best I got.
Yeah, if I'm not a contender,
Kenneth
like
Gainwell,
I don't want
Walker,
one of those
right?
guys.
Oh yeah, Kenneth Gainwell, not Kenneth Walker. Yes, Gainwell.
They lose value every game essentially. Again, unless you're one of those top 3 to 4 guys, right? Like, unless you're the outliers. For the most part, like every game that goes by, you're just in a better chance to lose value. That's all. For the most part, they have you can't. There's not a lot of guys that can just keep going up and up and up. So I'm gonna kick off the show with my guy, and my guy is Kyren Williams, running back for the Rams.
Yeah.
Comes out, has a fantastic year. He was running back 7 on the year, despite missing 5 games. On a points per game basis, his 21.3 points per game was second best in PPR leagues. And right now he has an ADP of 40 overall, which is pretty high. Running back 7. That means he's going in a high 4th round, right around there is where he's going. Top of the 4th.
Third. Yeah, third round.
Third if he's
top.
If it's 40. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 40. So top of the 3rd round there in a startup. Come off a great year, 1,144 yards, 12 touchdowns. Like I said, only playing 12 games. And this is a running back who was taken later and in the draft in the 5th round. And I'm not speaking. He looked fantastic last year. He really did. Like this is a really good running back. But here's my number one concern with Kyren Williams is, well, second concern. One, he's a running back in a Rams offense that has been a very fluid situation now forever. You know, they had a very small window of Todd Gurley was like locked in.
I'm going to say Gurley was the exception to that.
I mean, it was still a small window where Gurley was like a highly, they literally paid him and it was over. It was
those poor knees.
Because he started off so slow. I mean, Gurley did start off slow before he really hit the ground running.
Absolutely.
Then a knee injury caught up to him. I think he's still younger than some of these running. I mean, he's way younger than Raheem Mostert, which is crazy.
Obviously, yeah.
Most
every running back in the league.
I'm almost younger than Mostert.
I'm going to say I'm barely older than Mostert.
So last year, Kyren Williams slid into a situation in a good offense with McVay, a good offensive line, and he was the guy. He got all the carries, which helps propel him into a situation. And I know I saw some stat. I wish it was, I could read back, like for what he did was like the first time it was done in 87 years. I can't remember what that stat was. It wasn't enough for me to write down, but
it was something that hasn't been done in nearly a century.
Something awesome, and that was it.
Yeah, just Google what Kyren Williams hasn't done as another running back done in 87 years. But the facts are, they drafted.
Don't mind if I do.
They drafted Blake Corum in the third round, 83rd overall, 19th pick in the third round.
Yep.
And a running back who compares very similar to Kyren Williams. Enough so where Garrett mentioned it. He's like, he reminds you of Kyren Williams. Not only that, the GM and head coach was like, wow, he really reminds us of Kyren Williams a lot. And that's what's going to get into it. Like, not only did they draft him in the third round, but Les Snead, the Rams GM, said, hey, this is a guy that's going to help the Rams in many, many ways. The GM said, this was a guy that we thought, like our plan was to trade back in the third round and get more draft capital because they don't have a lot of draft capital. They haven't had a lot of draft capital for a while.
I Googled it. I couldn't find anything.
Don't Google it out there, people.
Google better than Garrett.
I literally said, what did Kyren Williams do that hasn't been done in 87 years? It didn't work.
Okay, well, I saw this. I saw it.
I seen it.
And Les Snead said this is a running back that we're going to use in many, many ways. This is a running back that once we saw he was on the board, we decided we could not trade out of the third round. Like we had to get this guy. This is a running back that we don't want to wear down Kyren Williams. And I'm not saying that Kyren Williams isn't going to be the guy. Like I'm not even saying that. Like Kyren Williams,
I think he's still the lead back.
He's definitely the lead back. But now he has a viable running back to take carries away from him. Not just some guy. This is a guy who come in and find success. Yeah, Blake Corum's an older running back. I didn't love his tape as much as everybody else did. Like I thought he was a very fine running back. I didn't love his age, and I thought where he was amongst other running backs, he'd be like the 5th, 6th running back off the board, which right around where he kind of slid into. Went higher than some other guys.
Kyren Williams had the highest snap share of any running back in the NFL at 83.9.
Which propelled him to those good numbers.
I knew that's what you were getting at. I just wanted to throw a number on top.
So that like those are like, so he's been pushed ahead, kind of like those Fugazi, Mike Davis numbers. I always go back to that because he's the perfect example of running back he's a running back 11 on strictly the amount of carries he got. Now Kyren Williams looked really good.
So he was efficient too.
He was efficient, and so was Kyren Williams. So right now, it was ADP. Oh my goodness gracious! I'm so excited over here.
Good Lord. Sell that quick. Sell that mic stand.
Dude, what do you get?
Sell everything. Everything has got to go.
So when I see a running back
it's on backwards? No? Yeah. There you go.
Slide in there slow. Come on. Come on, squeeze it a little bit.
It's getting late here in the studio, everyone. There it is.
Crushed it.
Thank you.
Only took me 30 seconds.
I'm a satisfied customer. When I see a running back just launch themselves onto the scene and have such a high finish that for me, it's like that screams like, again, I'm a contender. Me and Kyren Williams are rocking it. Unless I could flip Kyren Williams for like another running back and a first-round pick, then I love to make those moves as a contender too.
Would you flip him for like just guys going in a similar range? Like, would you trade him for like Etienne straight up or somebody like that?
No, not straight up. Okay. No, I would rather take a for sure thing like he was. And I'm saying I don't think he finishes as high as he did this year. 100%. I don't. I honestly think his best case scenario for me personally is a low end running back one. His best case scenario. I wouldn't be surprised if Kyren Williams finishes as a running back too. But he's a talented running back. He showed us that last year. This is not a Kyren Williams diss. Mm-hmm. This is a running back who outperformed his expectations drastically. Came in, finished as running back 7. He said he had a high ankle sprain. I think he had something else going on too. But
I just remember the ankle sprain.
I thought there was something going on too. But
was it
in the playoffs?
A knee or something?
Did he get hurt in the playoffs?
Did he tweak a knee?
That was a year previously, I think. Didn't he like break his wrists in the playoffs or something? The previous year, maybe. Anyways, who cares? That has nothing to do with it. They drafted Blake Corum. He's going to eat in some of these carries, which takes away some of that 83% carry share. And right now, like you can get. Like, I'm not even talking about, like, flipping Kyren Williams. If I can flip him for a running back plus, like, a pick, like a first-round pick specifically, a running back that I feel like can give me close to that production, or more so like here's some players that I looked at ADP wise that I think you might possibly get Kyren Williams for, which I would love to make this move for. Jalen Waddle, Romo Dunze, Trey McBride in Superflex leagues, Dalton Kincaid and TJ Hawkinson in tight end premium leagues, and Drake May. Those are guys that I feel like, so when you said like,
yeah.
And whenever you can trade a running back
for a different position,
for any sort of different position and make like a lateral jump there
for long-term
yeah, that's the long-term play for sure. I mean, like if you're getting a Dalton Kincaid, you're getting one of these young, dynamic, soon to be stud tight ends in the NFL for a running back. Even if he's a running back that's good for the next 2 years, you're still going to come out on top in 3 or 4 years from now.
Yeah, and on a points per game basis, that's depending on what it is. You could win there too, like a Jalen Waddle Cup you winner who every year, but this past year was a top 8 fantasy football wide receiver. Mm-hmm. If you get the upside of a young receiver like a Romo Dunze, it's great. But even like the Drake May, when I saw the Drake May ADP, I was like, man, if I get a young 21-year-old quarterback,
and I was just taking top 3 in draft,
Superflex tight end premium. Like if I could do that for a Kyren Williams, like I am all over that because that Drake May still at the bottom of those like quarterbacks, right?
Yep.
Like people like we know like JJ McCarthy, we said it's okay to take him ahead of him. So if I can flip a running back for a young quarterback like that, those are the kind of moves I'm trying to make here.
Makes sense.
Again, this isn't a go out and get rid of Kyren Williams because I think he's bad. It's just I think what we saw
for value elsewhere.
Yeah, I think what we saw will be the best we see from a fantasy football perspective, and you have a chance now. To me, this is the dream scenario for guys that I draft, like where you drafted him or you have him on your roster. A guy comes out and does this, and now it puts me in a position to make a lateral move for a long-term play. Because like we said, no running backs are long-term plays unless you're the outlier elite, like the Christian McCaffreys, right? Like, and a lot of guys you think you will be, like even the Saquon Barkley's, end up not being those guys. Mm-hmm. Guys you take high that you hope real high in your draft, like DeAndre Swifts, don't end up being those guys. Jonathan Taylor, who was Dynasty running back 1, hasn't ended up being that guy again, right? Like, it doesn't matter how talented they are. Even a Bijan Robinson, one of the greatest prospects we saw, he didn't come out was a high-end top 3 running back in year 1. It's too fluid of a position for me that this is the perfect apex scenario, right? Like, this is what you dream of happening. To get a guy in your roster like this, that comes out and does something like this, that you didn't draft, like when you drafted Bijan or Breece Hall, you drafted him expecting to be
this
guy.
Yeah.
When you have a guy that comes out and doesn't perform like that, the odds of them being that long-term play are real slim, like really like under 3% of them being that long-term play. So I'm just looking at him as a sell, as making a lateral move to get a long-term play in Dynasty. If I don't need it, if I have other running backs as a contender on my roster, because I would love to flip him for any guy that I just mentioned, and then go out and do a buy of our buy episode. Sure. And replace those. Like a Raheem Mostert drastically outproduced Kyren Williams. Now on a points per game basis now. But like overall, like you get Raheem Mostert for what we mentioned before.
Right.
And you fill in that production of the Kyren Williams while getting that long-term play at the other premium positions, whether it be quarterback, receiver, or tight end.
Love it, man. That's a nice sell, obviously, just because you mentioned it. But it sounds like he's a guy that's kind of artificially peaked, or came from nowhere to this great value, and now he
started from the bottom. Now he's here.
It's
Drake would say
it's time for the bottom to drop out. I don't know what Drake would say, but
3 years from now,
I don't know what Drake would say, but the bottom is going to drop out of this guy.
3 years from now, the value is probably not going to be there.
It's not.
And 3 years is a long time, but like 3 years from now, Drake May is going to be 24 years old.
That is math.
Yeah.
But incorrect also, because he's not 20.
He's 21.
3 years. Plus 3.
24. Yeah. What did I say?
23.
I think he said 24.
I did?
No.
Yeah, Jared.
The one time he got it right.
No.
You didn't even let him have it.
It feels wrong either way. I think he's 22. He's got to be 22.
This guy, he was wrong somewhere in there. I know it.
All right, anyway, my guy is another guy that I think is overvalued just due to the fact that he's got a job and is the man. My guy is Rachaad White. We've talked about him before. I wanted to bring him up again because this situation has changed after the draft. He's currently going off the board right now, 63rd. So a 5th round pick ish. He's 25.
I don't get that one.
He's 25 years old. I don't either. So last year, I mean, here's what it is. Last year he finished as running back 4 in PPR formats. And
we have these anomalies happen all the time.
You dig into the numbers, he was 3.63 yards per carry, 40th amongst qualified running backs. He was even lower if you added all the guys that were
what are the qualified 42 running backs?
It was he was like 84th or something like that if you added a bunch of guys that didn't hit the threshold to qualify for carries. But he did that last year on the highest percentage. I mentioned with Najee, he had the highest percentage of stack boxes. Mm. He averaged 3.63 yards per carry with the highest against light boxes. So not only did he he was very inefficient, he also didn't have a lot of defenders in his way to slow him down. So he should have been much more high, much more per carry basis if he was a quality running back. So then they bring in a guy like Bucky Irving, who he's okay, right? He's nothing special.
I like him in the passing game.
But he's good in the passing game, which is also what Rachaad White excels at. I think he might even offer a little bit more between the tackles.
I definitely think he does. He's smaller.
Just from an efficiency standpoint. And obviously, they're also bringing in a new offensive coordinator who knows what he's going to see in either one of these running backs, either the guy they just drafted under his maybe guidance and support, or the guy that was there last year that was only averaging 3.63 yards per carry against non-stacked boxes. Anyway, it's all just a perfect storm for me to get out from underneath him. You look at the data as far as what he's getting too, and you can get a 1st and a 3rd for a guy like Rachaad White right now.
All day.
And
keep the 3rd.
Exactly.
Keep the 1st.
I mean, some of the older things that happened kind of before the draft settled in. It was it was Chris Godwin straight up for him. I mean, I would take Godwin all day. A 1st and a 25-second and Tajay Spear. It was all sorts of bonker stuff in there. That was the earlier stuff, but the 25 1st and 3rd. I'll take it. I'll take it a year out. I'm fine with that.
26 first, I'll take.
Exactly. For a guy like Rachaad White, who I just don't believe is going to hold on to this job. And he's in year 3 of 4. You know what I mean? They could move out. He's not making a lot of money. He was a 3rd round draft pick. He's making $1.6 million this year. They can get out from underneath this guy literally whenever the heck they want. If Bucky Irving hits, he could be gone.
Sure.
If Bucky Irving doesn't hit, they could just draft a guy next year and he's gone.
It's a deep running back class.
This is like the last time Rachaad White is going to have value is now.
This high of value.
High of value, right? He's always going to have some value because he's catching passes, but this high coming off a running back 4 season, this is his peak value.
He's a Jag. That's what he is, and that's not. I mean, he's a Jag in the NFL, which means he's a very superior. He's a very talented athlete.
He's a fantastic.
He's an NFL running back, 100%. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about peak value. This is what Dynasty is, right? It's buying and selling windows. Like that's what you're trying to find. This is when I say Kyren Williams, like the perfect apex of finding a window. Rachaad White's even more so because Kyren, I'm only selling for the right situation. Rachaad White,
get out.
I'm just selling. I'm fine. I'm determined to get rid of him. I'm
actively making deals.
I'm making sure I'm going to every owner and I'm finding the best deal. Whenever that best offer is, I'm pretty much accepting because I don't believe in the long-term play there whatsoever. It's funny because I was I don't really get all the Bucky Irving hype on Twitter. You know what I mean? I don't get it all. Bucky Irvin's one of my most owned rookies that I got.
Just because of this?
Because of where he fell in the draft and because I don't believe in Rachaad White so much, I'll take. And I was like, if Rachaad White could do well there, Bucky Irving should do just fine as well.
And think of where the offensive coordinator came from. He came from that same system that is producing a guy like Kyren Williams kind of out of nowhere, out of obscurity, out of a late-round draft pick. Bucky Irving is not even as obscure, I don't think, as Kyren Williams coming out. So it can be done. They can turn Bucky Irving into a good player. I'm not sure that they can do it with Rachaad White because I don't think the tools were there to begin with.
I think if he eats in any of his pass catching, if he eats any of that third down, the receiving role, like Rachaad White will be lucky to finish as running back.
They have to be looking to get more efficient with the running game. They just have to be between the tackles. And if Bucky Irving is who they drafted, it might be Bucky Irving getting the first chance at doing that.
and there's nobody else really even on the roster. You know what I mean? Like, was Zach Evans? Is that right there?
Well, they have like Chase Edmonds. They have a bunch of they're just guys. Though.
Retreads.
Yeah, they're retread guys. So to me, it's get out from Rachaad White. It's going to be Bucky Irving getting a shot
White,
anyway.
Yeah. I mean, White's going to get his carries.
Of course.
This year,
Of course he is. They're gonna keep trying, but I just don't think that this is going to be the long-term answer just based on
it's the end of the road.
Based on how inefficiency, not just last year, just throughout his entire career, how inefficiency he's been.
Yep. Hey, Dynasty Nerds, it's time to take your Dynasty game to the next level with FFPC's Dynasty Startup Leagues. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started, FFPC has a league for you with entry fees ranging from $100 up to $5,000. Choose from a variety of formats, including Superflex, Best Ball Superflex, Triflex, 1QB, and Standard. With weekly lineups, waivers, trades, head-to-head matchups, and playoffs, FFPC's fully managed leagues provide the ultimate dynasty experience. Most importantly, the leagues are here to stay. FFPC has never had a dynasty league fold. They manage the entire commissioner experience from buy-in management to fulfilling your orphans. FFPC is perfect place to expand your dynasty league portfolio. And here's the best part. As a Dynasty Nerds listener, you can get $25 off any entry fee as a new member when you use the promo code NERDS. Head over to myffpc.com now to draft your team, manage your roster, and dominate your league with FFPC. That's myffpc.com. Promo code NERDS for $25 off any entry fee for new members. FFPC, where Dynasty dreams become a reality.
All right. Well, let's get to our third running back sell. And this one was a tough one for me. I feel similar to what Rich said is I'm not necessarily getting rid of this guy at all costs. It's not that I think he's a bad player. In fact, I think he's a very serviceable running back too. But I think it's partly the players around him and partly the guy that's on his team that I expect to do even more. And that guy's David Montgomery. So, looking at him ADP wise, he fell in that group that I read off in the buy show. You have him right behind him is Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, Alvin Kamara, all guys that I think could short-term outproduce him. And I don't think there's a long-term outlook for David Montgomery. This is his age 27 season, so we're nearing the end of the road here. And look, last year was awesome. He had a great year last year, so I don't want to take anything away from that. But one, he was a little banged up. He missed some time here and there. But two, and it's funny because I picked him before we even got these comments, but I saw the comments today from their GM, Brad Holmes, saying that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be even more involved this year, which, no duh. We didn't need him to say that, but it always makes you feel even better when he does. And the thing with David Montgomery is, once again, not a bad player. I feel fine with him as my RB3, not as my RB2. Right now, he's the 20th running back off the board. So you're drafting him like a running back 2 at the moment. And looking at his stats, at the end of the season when Jahmyr Gibbs really, really came on strong and really started taking more and more of this role, David Montgomery's PPR points were pretty lackluster. From weeks 13 on, he didn't have a single game over 15 points. And yes, you can say, well, but he was fairly consistent, all double digits at least. Well, he had a touchdown in almost every single one of those games. So when you're looking at that, you're saying, are we really wanting to start a guy every week where we need touchdowns for him in order to be successful? And even in the passing game, yes, he did a little bit, but he still didn't get more than 3 targets in any of those games. Just fortunately, when he needed to, he converted those into 3 catches, and he got the 3 PPR points he needed for those and things like that. There's just a lot of metrics in here where I could just see him dropping and dropping and dropping. And you even just look at the snap percentage. He dropped from the beginning of the year where he was in the 70s snap percentage wise down into the last few weeks. He was in the 30s and 40s. So Gibbs is taking off more and more and more. And I worry that if he's not as efficient with his red zone touches, could we have a lot of very, very disappointing weeks where he had 12 attempts for 66 yards and 1 catch for 8 yards?
You're 100% going to have a couple of those.
Yeah,
for sure. But look back at the history of this team, right? with this group in charge.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a back that they have scoring touchdowns. I think it's going to be David Montgomery for this year.
Probably so.
And I think you can hang your hat on double-digit touchdowns, probably in the 13 to 15 range for him, because I just think that role is there. But if you look at his contract, he's basically on the last year of his deal. I mean, and so that's in my brain when you were talking that entire time. I'm like, I think he's got a role. I think he still has this red zone role. I think it's still a valuable role until he becomes too expensive and the production doesn't warrant that.
Like Jamal Williams?
Just like Jamal Williams, and I think that happens at the end of this year. So while I think it's fine to get out from underneath this guy, if you can get any sort of price for him, I think this is a great sell, because I think this is the last opportunity you're going to get to sell him.
For me, with Najee Harris literally being 3 spots behind him and 2 running backs behind him, like for me, it's just not even close. Like I would much rather have him. I'd much rather have 1 year of Derrick Henry, 1 year of Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
Like it just makes more sense to me.
I agree there.
I mean, I get it, because both those guys are feature backs, and you're hoping, right, with David Montgomery that he's going to score a touchdown. I think if you were to buy David Montgomery for cheap, you might be happy as well. You know what I mean? Like if you're a contender, this is one of those classic, it could work out both ways.
Sure.
If you're trying to sell, you sell him to the right contender and you might get a little bit more than you're expecting. And if you're a contender, you're still not paying a super high price to get somebody that's valuable for your team. So I think this is a good two-way. You could have him on either side depending on who you were kind of arguing for.
He's a real nice running back 3 to have on your roster. But like you said, if you can go out and get a running back 1 like Derrick Henry, just albeit for 1 year, and Alvin Kamara for 1 year, and maybe the youth there kind of get you the Derrick Henry. Maybe we can get you the Alvin Kamara on the right team. And like some people are just like, hey, yeah, I can't find trade partners for running back, but I'll at least make a lateral move for youth. Like I'll get 1 year. I'm going down the ship. At least I don't want 1 year of Derrick Henry. At least I can get a couple years of David Montgomery. And David Montgomery will find another team just like Jamal Williams did. And
you'll find another team, but you won't find the same value.
You won't. You 100% won't.
Jamal Williams is nothing now.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I kind of lean with you, Matt, on that category. I think he'll be the guy again this year, and that offense kind of was last year. I think he'll get a little bit less, because I think they're going to give more to Jahmyr Gibbs.
I spent too many years hoping that DeAndre Swift was going to get more work, and they kept feeding this damn guy the ball at the goal line. I think I kind of learned the lesson there a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it'll be different this time with Jahmyr Gibbs.
We'll see.
They're different players. I mean,
they are, and they clearly like Gibbs more than
absolutely.
Swift.
Swift was kind of inherited, and
they made their feelings on him clear.
Yeah, very clear.
Yep.
All right, my next running back sell here is Tony Pollard. And Tony Pollard is coming in right now, ADP-wise, as running back 14 overall, but he's a top 100 draft pick. And I'm just flipping him for upside. I still, his last year, he was a disappointment last year, but he still had some really good games. I'm sorry, he was running back 14 overall.
I was going to say, not his ADP.
ADP's 100 overall.
Got it. Okay, yep.
He finished as running back 14 overall. He had some really big games. Started the year off real hot, some 20-point games. Finished the year, not at the very end, but a couple games before that, pretty hot as well.
Yeah, and then the middle was just kind of...
Yeah, looked pretty good. But Dallas couldn't wait to get rid of him. They were like, give us Zeke back, and we're fine. And for me, Tony Pollard, he falls in the category. One, I do like the situation of the team he's on, because I love the fact that the Tennessee Titans went and got Bill Callahan, probably
great addition,
arguably the greatest offensive line coach of offense in history. I mean, look what he did here in Cleveland. Even turned DeJuan Jones into like an all-pro. Essentially, is what he looked like. And Tennessee's really invested in their offensive line. They drafted Peter Skoronski last year out of Northwestern in the first round. He played okay, but he also had to get that emergency appendectomy earlier in the year, so that probably affected him a little bit. They went out and signed a big offensive lineman this year. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Cushenberry. But they gave him a big deal. And then on top of that, And like 7th overall,
Been a top 10
they
pick.
took
Yeah.
J.C. Latham, the right tackle for Alabama, who they'll probably move over to left tackle and let Skoronski play right tackle because Dillard, their left tackle last year, I think he was a former first-round pick too. He was horrendous. So the offensive line should be drastically better this year with the addition of Callahan and the draft capital they had in there. And what worries me here is like I think Pollard is still going to be fine in his role. I just like Tajay Spears more.
Yeah,
I really do.
high five.
You know what I mean? So like I think Tajay Spears will benefit a little bit more in this offense. And they're really trying to, like, I think all their signs are telling us what they're trying to do, right? Like, we know the NFL is a passing offense. They're trying to build a really good offensive line to help Will Levis. They're going to use the running game. I think Tajay Spears will outplay Tony Pollard. That's just my prediction. I think it'll be close. I'm not saying Spears is going to be some top-end fancy guy. But my point is I don't think either of these guys will be top-end fancy
They're going to
guys.
eat into each other. It's going to be
They're eating
frustrating.
each other a little bit. And with that ADP, I think you flip them. And I think what they're doing with Will Levis is we saw not only they go out and they give Calvin Ridley a monster contract. They have DeAndre Hopkins there, who still showed last year he's still a stud. Then they don't stop. They go out there and they signed Tyler Boyd. They signed oh my God, I forgot. They signed another receiver as well, and they still have Trey Benson.
Wasn't Zay Jones, but it was a deep threat guy. MVS. I don't know. Somebody.
No,
No,
MVS
he
decided
just went to the
MVS signed
Bills.
with Buffalo. Either way,
look,
the
I'll
guy
find
who
it.
he's not as good as Tyler Boyd, who it was irrelevant. But they have Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins there, and they're going to try and see what they have in Will Levis, and they're really putting him in the position to succeed. And Will Levis has got a big arm, right? Like he can push the ball downfield. So having a guy like Ridley and Hopkins is going to help. And right now it's just so like, what could I get for Tony Pollard? And that's what I was looking at too. Like, okay, again, another guy who I'm like,
I don't think they signed him, but they have Treylon Burks, obviously.
okay.
Is
I thought they signed one person right before they signed Tyler Boyd.
I thought they did too, but they didn't.
Maybe not. Okay. Either way, doesn't matter. They have Tyler Boyd. They have Treylon Burks. They have DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley. So when I'm looking at ADP, when his ADP is 100, I'm like, okay, what can I move on? I'm not giving Tony Pollard away, but I'm gonna give you 3 names, ADP wise, saying that you can probably get for Tony Pollard. And maybe if you couldn't get him straight up, you have to throw a little bit on top. But I have no problem throwing a 2nd round pick on top of this to get this guy. Either of these guys. 3 names. Superflex tight end premium. Those 3 names are Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, and Trey Benson. ADP-wise, those are 3 players that it says you should realistically be out there and go and get. It's really hard to tell. Every league's different.
Every league. Yep.
But I would give, in a Superflex tight end premium league, I would give a first on top of Tony Pollard to get Michael Penix and Bo Nix. I would give a first on top
Either
of both
one,
those.
not both of them.
Yeah.
You made it sound like both. I just wanted to make
Wait,
sure.
for what?
You said Bo Nix and
Michael Penix.
Michael Penix
Yeah.
and Bo Nix.
So I would give I would give Tony Pollard and a first. First, I would just try and get a first. We probably won't get it done for Bo Nix or Michael Penix. But Tony Pollard's the kind of piece I would throw on top of that to get those deals done. I would love to be able to give.
He was a fairly inefficient guy last year. I mean,
He's not young.
Under 4 yards a carry, he was in the 3s, and like you said,
He's a pass catcher runner. That's where he lives.
Yep.
That's where he should live, and that's where hopefully he would live with Tajay Spears. But Tajay Spears is a very efficient
They're
pass catcher
very
as well.
similar players.
Yeah.
It's Kyren and Blake Corum. It's teams are just, hey, they're going to this guy's gone. We got the perfect guy to step in.
So when you talk about, we were talking about Trey Benson last show, right? Trey Benson right now in Superflex leagues is going in the 2nd round. So you can't just offer a 2nd round pick for Trey Benson. Nobody's gonna make that lateral move. But if you're like, hey, I'll give you a 2nd and Tony Pollard,
You might get it done.
it might get it done. So those are the 3 players that I targeted in on that I would really actively go get. But like, I'm outside of like Kyren Williams, I'm really trying to get Tony Pollard off my roster. An older running back who's in a timeshare situation, who's coming off a year that was somewhat disappointing, whose contract is, all those contracts are like you can get out from under long term. Definitely if Spears comes in and shows that he could be the guy, and I think Spears could be a very solid running back. Maybe he's always a timeshare running back, that's fine. But I'm out on Tony Pollard.
Fair
totally,
enough.
yeah, absolutely. Moving on to my guy, my last guy is Travis Etienne that I'm out on, or that I want to trade. Yep, I did it last year, and I'm doing it again this year.
Said I'm back, being gone.
Because we got some numbers to back it up. Anyway,
he'll be on the list next year too.
Yeah, he'll be on the list. No, he won't, because he'll be gone by then. No, so he's coming off the board at around 44 or 41. Sorry, so third round ish. He's 25 years old. He finished last year as running back 3 on points per game basis, or in PPR leagues rather. I think he was running back 6 on points per game basis. But this is another player, very similar argument to a Rachaad White. 3.77 yards per carry average. And so that was 40th amongst the qualified running backs. And he had the 5th highest light box, when you're comparing running backs, apples to apples. Obviously, last year brought in Tank Bigsby to be kind of the between the tackles banger. Never really came to fruition. But Doug Peterson has already come out this offseason and stated that he wants to get less, basically, Etienne to touch the ball less. That is a quote, touch the ball less, in order to keep him healthy over the course of the year. And when you look at the numbers, there's something to that. Last year in the first 8 games of the season, he scored 15 or more points in 6 out of the 8 games. In the remaining 9 games after that, he did it only 3 times. So this is a player that really wore down, because he was the guy. He had basically all the carries last year. I don't have the exact number, but I can grab it real fast. So with that in mind, I mean, it's just a matter of time, I think, before they find someone. If it's not Tank Bigsby this year, it's going to be someone next year. He's in his 4th year now, so he'll have a 5th-year option. But it's definitely one of those. He was the 6th highest in snap percentage last year, with 74.3%. This is another guy that's just bound to go down in value. So if you can get anywhere close to approaching this RB3 numbers, if you can get a first plus in return for Travis Etienne, which you should be able to do in most leagues, this is a perfect guy to get off your roster. And I feel like unlike what you were saying about, hey, Saquon Barkley has likely found himself on his way onto a contender by now, right, in your leagues. Yeah. I feel like Etienne, with his slow start to his kind of career with the injured first year and all that kind of stuff, he could likely be on a team that's bad still. He just, unless it was last year that somebody sold him, he could still be on that original team, because this is only his 4th year right now, and the first year was basically a wash. And the second year wasn't great. Last year was like his big year where it was like, yes, all right, sweet, Etienne. He could still be there. So this is a person that you need. If you have him on your team and you're not a contender, you need to get him off now. He's about to be a second contract player at the position coming up soon, and they are bound to bring somebody in. If it's not Tank Bigsby, like I said, it's going to be someone next year in the draft in a very deep running back class that is going to reduce his workload, and with that is going to come a much lower, I think, kind of score as far as, or finish as far as fantasy football.
Yeah, he falls in that category of a running back. I love to flip for again, going back to what I said about one of those older running backs and then a first on top. Like even like an Alvin Kamara, who on a points per game basis was 1.3 points more per game he scored, Alvin Kamara. And you could probably easily get Kamara plus something nice for Etienne, something along those lines.
I mean, could you get a Kamara and a young tight end, maybe a Trey McBride or somebody like that in a tight end premium?
Probably not. McBride's too hot of a name. We were talking about him before. His ADP kind of out-produces it.
But maybe like a Luke Musgrave.
And Kamara, that'd be tough.
Kamara's old, man. Kamara's old.
I know. No, I'm saying that's tough for me. Giving up Etienne.
You'd want more.
I like Musgrave, but I'd want something a little bit more.
I'm trying to get a feel for that. Who
concrete down there? Trying to think. If you're saying tight end premium,
it doesn't need to be. Just throw
if you need a tight end. If I'm looking at tight ends, I'm looking at maybe a David Njoku, possibly. Okay. And plus an Alvin Kamara, I probably feel a little bit better about that. Wide receiver wise, I'm probably looking at guys in the middle, maybe I can get some upside. I like Jaden Reed.
Okay.
Not as much Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, George Pickens.
What's wrong with Jordan Addison? Just because he's second fiddle there?
I mean, you could argue
second fiddle. Yeah,
I'd
they're
argue
gonna be
third fiddle after Hawkins.
once Hawk's back.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But now
there.
on a team that doesn't have Kirk Cousins.
You know, if I could flip them for like those kind of guys, like you know,
JJ McCarthy's just the next Kirk Cousins. What are you talking about?
yeah, the upside of George Pickens and Kamara, someone on
see.
those lines, like young receiver. I love to get, like I said, Jaden Reed. Right now, there's
Hold
depleted
on.
value,
Did
like
you guys-
Rashee Rice.
hold on. Not to get off subject here, but did you guys hear all the glowing news about Bo Nix and how he's exactly what Sean Payton thought he was when he's got
We'll
it?
see.
I just wanted to.
We'll see.
I just wanted to bring up Bo Nix because he's my boy.
Hey, look,
Listen. Benjamin Albright is a Denver insider.
it's true.
And the dude is always, I mean, that dude's,
He's-
he gets
he's
a lot of
plugged in.
slack, about a lot of things he does. But like for insider wise, like he's
He's in the
on
know.
point. Like he knows.
And
And he said Bo Nix was Sean Payton's guy all the way through. He said, I think he had him as their second or third quarterback on the board.
We'll see.
So, and he said like
I don't
that
see
that
it.
was their guy all the way.
Bo Nix.
So I'll and listen, in that system, Sean Payton, like we said this before, like Sean Payton's tying his career to him. So
Yeah,
like
he absolutely is.
that's like I didn't love his tape either, but I'm in on Bo Nix. Like for Superflex, like I want some shares. I was in a league where I didn't even need a quarterback. I ended up getting Michael Penix and I ended up getting Bo Nix at 2-3 in the Superflex league, and I was like literally ecstatic about it.
I just low-key kind of feel bad for Bo Nix because when you look at that receiving core compared to like what some of these other rookies are getting,
Oh yeah, it's atrocious.
It's bad. Like he's not getting a lot of help.
I think though it'd be better in 2025. Significantly.
Quarterbacks only get so much.
Cortland
we'll see.
Sutton's not even there, right? He's not even
Well, that's what I like about.
participating in the offseason.
I know, but that's what I like about Nix though. Like he's not on some short. Like this, not like if it doesn't work out this year, like they give a first for Sean Payton. Sean Payton's there. He's right on his contract. Bo Nix is Sean Payton's guy. Like there's no like, like it doesn't matter. That's what I like about Bo Nix. It doesn't matter if he has a bad year this year. Like if he's bad, like really bad, like Jared Goff year one or someone like. Or Bryce Young year one. Like he's the guy in 2025, and they will do what they can to improve everything. Like what they're doing for Will Levis this year, who's a second round pick. Like they're gonna do everything they can to put him. Sean Payton's gonna do everything he can to put Bo Nix in the best possible scenario. He's gonna come with the best scheme, put the best players around him.
I don't know why we're talking so much about Bo Nix
I'm
right
just so happy right now that we are talking Bo Nix
now. Oh my gosh.
on a running back show.
Okay, but yeah, sell.
I brought it up.
He tricked. He
I totally
baited
tricked-
you into it, and he reeled you
did.
in.
I'm in. I wish I had more shares. I got one.
Yes.
I have as many as I want.
0.
0 shares of Bo Nix.
What,
Look,
who's
maybe I'll be
running back
wrong. Maybe I'll be
Who's
wrong.
my running back? Travis Etienne.
Yeah. Okay.
Go,
And I said go get Bo Nix for ETN.
That's right.
Back baby.
So I struggle with Travis Etienne a little bit because I was really on board before. I didn't want him on any teams. I didn't like the inconsistency. I still don't love the
Get your
inconsistency.
lifesaver. He's overboard.
The part that I struggle with now is there's just so few running backs that are young-ish.
Sure. 25. I think
Yeah,
it is.
young-ish, and get as much work as he does. So that's where I wrestle with it.
Well, that's what I'm worried about. Is Doug Peterson coming out and saying we need to get him less work.
I get that.
He wore down, and the numbers bear that he wore down.
It is true, and I do think we'll see probably a slightly decreased workload, but still, I mean, he was a top 5, top 10 running back. What was he?
Top 3.
Top 3. Yeah, he was. He finished pretty high. So, okay, if he falls to 6 or 7 on a slight, like they didn't add anybody, that tells me that they want to decrease his workload, and that's the hard part. Coaches say things all the time.
No, I get it.
So that's where I don't think it's a bad sell, and like I have no issue selling him. Like he's not somebody I'm actively buying. It's just hard when there's so few young running backs that are workhorse backs.
And I'll tell you this from my experience. I have one ETN share on a team that is in complete rebuild mode in the UDPL league, right?
Yeah.
That I've had him. He was literally my only running back. And last year I went into tank mode. All last year I actively tried to sell ETN. All year. Couldn't.
So no one's buying, huh?
Nobody's buying. Like it's weird. Like he's and I told him, I was like, you guys, I have a top 5 producing running back who's super young here. Like we're like all the offers I got were complete garbage offers, and I could not offload them.
And that could just be an example of the league.
Sure.
You know
it's
what
a
I mean?
podcast
The
league. It's
the league
it's
that
a
you're in.
which are like most guys
A lot
are
of
like,
sharps.
I'm not buying running backs.
Yeah.
So like it's I'll send offers, like even if I send offers, like, dude, you'll never, same theory as me, like I'll never give you, I'm not buying running backs. Sorry. I don't play that way, which is a lot of guys in the business. They have that same philosophy. So it is kind of harder in that league to sell, but like I literally couldn't sell him for
anything close to value.
Anything close to value.
I mean,
In
were you
that
getting
league.
like second round draft pick?
Equivalent to almost like, or like 112, you know what I mean? Like something on those lines. Now, in hindsight,
this year it wouldn't have been that bad.
I probably would, if I could flip for Jonathan Brooks, but like even then, it's like
You're just making a lateral.
I'm making a lateral move there.
younger.
I'm just trying to
And
get,
you're taking the risk.
but for that, I'm taking all the risk, and in that league, I'd be okay with getting younger. Like today, give me.
Yeah.
But still, it's kind of like, like why not? I'll just try and wait again now this year as the season starts and try and flip him again if he starts off strong. But like, again, it's hard with these kind of guys because like I understand what you're saying. Like he's a guy like they're hard to get these kind of guys.
Right. And so that's why I'm kind of meh. Like I'm not necessarily actively trying to go buy Etienne. I just have a hard time selling him.
But you can, I get that.
I have a hard
Because
time selling him,
he's efficient.
Clearly.
Rich, clearly. But I just feel like this is another guy that the bottom could drop out of slightly, even if it's slightly, and you're not getting instead of getting a first and a second, all of a sudden you're getting just the first, or maybe you're getting less than a first, and you're like, what the heck, man?
No, it's definitely
on how,
possible.
Depending on how far.
Matt made some good points though. Like he started off strong, like he was getting over 22 touches per game, and then the second half of the season, like it dropped drastically. They did invest in Tank Bigsby somewhat, so we might see a little bit more there. Like it's weird that like he finished high, but like all the arrows are pointing down on Etienne.
They are, except for they didn't do anything to change anything.
And you're right.
They didn't sign any running backs. They didn't draft any running backs. They didn't trade for any running backs. Like
I don't want to quote it because I can't remember the whole thing, but Doug Peterson, I think earlier in the offseason also said something about Tank. He's like,
he likes Tank. And,
admitted that he needed it. He should have gotten Tank more stuff last year. It just it kind of never materialized.
Year 4 for him, going into year 4.
This will be
Etienne.
Yeah, this will be year 4 for Etienne.
So what?
And they did pick up his 5th year option, or didn't?
I thought
they did.
I think they did.
They did. Yeah, so that's some insulation value there too, because that's guaranteed. Yeah, I mean that'd be a huge. I mean that's a huge deal. Them picking up the 5th. Like Najee.
I'm pretty sure. Let me double check that.
Yeah, can you Google that?
I know Najee. They did not.
Can you Google that?
This one I think we could.
Garrett stinks at Google.
See, I couldn't remember if he was even eligible for that yet. That's what I was kind of curious on, if he was even eligible. I thought, I don't know if this year was his.
Yeah, he was in the same class. Officially exercised Etienne's 5th year option money.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that means this year and next year, that once you exercise that 5th year option, that's guaranteed contract. So he's guaranteed that money next year. And he's going to be a top, that's what? He's going to be a top 7, top 8 paid running back overall. I mean, that's good value. So you're guaranteed Etienne for 2 years on Jacksonville, an up-and-coming team. Like, that's why I wouldn't sell for, like, dirt value. Yeah. I understand you want to get out from under him, but, like, in a hashtag 2 to 3 year window, I kind of do lean Garrett a little bit this way. I wouldn't mind getting out from under him as well from the value, but, like, I think for what I've noticed, when you're not getting returned, like, you're, like...
If you're not getting, like, a top 5, 6 running back, people give you poop offers for everybody else.
So it might be, like... It might flip the script, right? And kind of go see, like, maybe go get Etienne, like, for just a late first, because he, like that changes. It really does. It changes everything for me, knowing I picked up that 5th year option. I didn't know that was eligible.
When did they pick that up?
Yeah, I didn't even heard of
April 29th.
Okay.
Or at least that's when they reported it. Said option on Monday.
It still says 5th year option available on Spot Rec. That's why.
Oh, no. CBS Sports reported it.
Yeah, and I never, that's weird because I never heard that news either. That's why I was kind of shocked by it. But, like, that really does.
They had to do all of those already by now. So all of those guys in that class.
And that's the thing. I didn't realize. I thought he wasn't even eligible for that yet. But, like,
it's because that first year he was out.
I might go see what I can get Etienne for now that I'm saying that.
I actually just drafted him for the first time this year. Just because.
Well, good luck with your non-valuable running back next.
I mean, Matt, but wouldn't you agree, like, knowing that you have a running back that's 25 that's guaranteed at a high paying salary 2 years on a roster now?
Listen, I think he's going to be on the roster. I'm concerned that he's going to have less of a workload, and he's fairly inefficient at 3.7 yards per carry.
And I agree. So that he's probably going to be pushed down to where I think where his finish was last year, like you mentioned, like that when you want to sell off the finish, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Running back 3, I think that's out the window. I think there's many running backs that come in and outproduce that performance. I think he's going to fall.
That's what my sale is based off.
But I think on an amount of carries, like he still probably has a chance to finish as a low end running back too. Worst case, he's a high end running back too.
I definitely don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah,
I don't
so
think
to
he's
me-
like gone. I think his value is just going to go down.
And I'm just wondering, like, if people are worried about him, like, if I can get that value for like a late first, if I'm a contender, if I can, hey, I'll give you a first for Etienne, which I wouldn't like. I wouldn't accept that before, but if some people would accept that, it makes him a kind of a value.
So he's similar to who I just talked about with Garrett with
Bo Nix?
With Bo Nix, baby. David Montgomery. in that he could be a buy in the right situation, given whatever league you're in.
Yeah, what can I give on top of David Montgomery to get Etienne? Like, what can I give on top?
Bo Nix.
You know?
Slap a Bo Nix on there and bam.
Here's a question for you. Straight up, in Dynasty, Derrick Henry or Travis Etienne?
Etienne easily.
Yeah,
Okay.
very easily.
So what could I take? Could I make that trade in Dynasty? Could I give just a little bit on top of Derrick Henry to get Etienne? Like just a little bit? Rachaad White. Dude, can I give Rachaad White and
If you can give Rachaad White and Derrick Henry and get Etienne, I'd do it.
I like how I'm flipping this from our running back sells to like, how do we go?
I'm buying
How do we
Etienne.
go out and get Etienne? I'm telling you, that 5th year option
Changed a lot for you?
A lot for me. It's 2 years, and I look at all running backs in a 2-year window, and I'm always worried because it's always such a fluid situation.
It is.
If you give me a guaranteed
That's
situation,
much more stable now.
Yeah, you give me any kind of stability, right? Like which is guaranteed money in a contract.
Yeah.
If you give me 2 years guaranteed money in a contract, like I'm in on that running back. He's just got 2 years of guaranteed money, so like blue pill me. Hey guys, let me tell you about our friends at Sleeper. Guess what? Our app the mini is live on Sleeper right now. The Dynasty GM.
pretty.
You can use the analyzer. You can use the trade calculator. And my favorite thing is the inbox, right? Where all your trades from all your Sleeper leagues are right there. You can actually push trades through the actual Sleeper app. And right now, we couldn't be more excited to be partners with them. And right now, if you don't know, they are doing DFS. And I know how many people that play Dynasty play DFS as well. And right now, there's not a better place to play DFS than Sleeper. They're offering up to 100 times your entry, the highest payout in the whole DFS market right now. You can track your fantasy players and your Sleeper picks in real time. All you got to do is choose 2 to 8 of your favorite players from pregame, live in-game, or even across different sports. Pick more or less than the predicted stats, and only on Sleeper you can get up to 100 times your payout. You can share with your friends and get rewarded together. Make sure you use that promo code NERD so our friends know that friends sent them their way. And get your deposit match and have a good time. You'll have all your DFS, all of your fantasy leagues, and now even a Dynasty GM in one spot. It is fully operational inside Sleeper right now. And then when you're a Nerd Herd member, you get that full access to that. And remember, you also want to download the Dynasty Nerds app because they're both in there. Check it out. Check out our friend Sleeper. Check out our DFS. Use that promo code NERDS.
Get your whole estate. Garrett, give us your last guy.
Close us down.
Last but not least, I am selling James Cook. James Cook.
Wait a minute. What?
I just bought James Cook yesterday. And
James-
a Superflex leave again. Matt Stafford straight up.
Oh, that's good value.
Wow,
I'd be okay with that.
That is good.
I still he's my 5th quarterback.
That's good value. So James Cook right now, he is going ADP wise. I had it and I just lost it.
Sorry, I interrupted like I always do.
He is going
I can
as
find
running back. There he is, 12. He's going as running back 12, just behind Josh Jacobs. Wide receivers in that range, you're getting like Deebo Samuel, Stephon Diggs, Rashee Rice. So you're getting right in that range. Brian Thomas as a rookie. Deshaun Watson, Bryce Young at the quarterback is right around that range. Here's the thing with James Cook. James Cook, I think, had a good season last year. James Cook finished as the running back 12 last year. So he did sneak in and finished as a running back 1. Here's the thing that worries me to death about James Cook.
Ray Davis.
Honestly, that's part of it.
Yeah.
Last year, James Cook was 10th in attempts in the NFL in rushing, which I don't think he's a particularly good running back. I think he's a very good pass catcher, and I think that's where he makes his money. But I don't think he's a particularly good running back. So he had 1,100 rushing yards last year on 237 rushing attempts. I think when you look at what happened, you look at the narrative of the Buffalo Bills last year. The narrative was they could not close games. They weren't able to do it. And you look at in the fourth quarter, when you look at the first down rate for James Cook, he was the lowest of anybody in his range as far as carries go. He had the lowest first down rate out of any of those guys. So what's going to happen at the end of these games? Are they going to be giving the ball to James Cook to try to get more yards and more? No, they're going to give the ball to somebody like a Ray Davis, who's a much more physical, much more bruising type of back to get that 1 or 2 extra yards. I don't think James Cook goes away. In fact, I think James Cook is going to be a very valuable third down back for this team for the long term. But I think they've been sorely missing that between the tackles guy. And I would not be shocked in the least if his 1,100 yards from last year drops to 750 yards. And he's still a valuable running back. But now, and we're drafting him right at where he finished at running back 12, but it wouldn't shock me if he drops to running back 18. Running back 19, which is still not bad. But at his running back 12 price, give me Josh Jacobs right before him. Give me some of those receivers. Give me a quarterback into Deshaun Watson. Like, give me those types of pieces over a James Cook.
Yeah, I think his real numbers kind of tell the true tale here. He finishes running back 12 overall in PPR leagues. But you look at his points per game, it's 13.7 points per game. That puts him right around the mid-range running back 2 on an average per scale. Like his out of all the running back 1, like his 13.7 outside of like even like Bijan's 14.5 and like Derrick Henry's 14 point.
He was just healthy, which is awesome.
Yeah. Which again, he's healthy. Like those are very running back 2, mid-range running back 2 numbers. I mean, out of the top 18 guys outside of like Jerome Ford and Tony Pollard, his average points per game would put him right around running back 19, like right around there. So like, again, that's an asset. That's a mid-range running back 2. That is asset.
Yep.
But you're right. Like as a running back 1, that value's not there. We said there's always those guys that kind of sneak in. Like he's one of those running backs that kind of sneaked in, like the Danny Woodheads, kind of along those lines. The James Whites, those guys that kind of those PPR running backs that sneak in at find their running back 1 year. That totally say, hey, they're a running back 1 once and not again. So his points per game actually tells the real story of what he is, which is a fine running back, but a PPR running back too.
He's another guy that ran against a lot of light boxes. He was the 7th highest. Unlike Rachaad White and Travis Etienne, he actually had above 4 yards per carry average. So
he did okay against it.
So he did okay against it, but I think what you also have to dig into a little bit is the fact that they're not going to have Stephon Diggs there next year. This is going to be a little bit of a transition year for their passing game. Mm-hmm. So I think teams are going to be able to, I think, stack the box a little bit more often against them than they were in years past. So those numbers the efficiency numbers might go down a little bit if there's another, even if it's just an extra.
And no Gabe Davis to take the top off, too.
Absolutely. Even if it's just an extra body.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling to take the top
back. Off. We're fast. Guess what? I'm going to catch 1 out of every 3.
Exactly. So I just think maybe his numbers, I think I'm on the same page as you. I do think his numbers could take a dip just because efficiency and maybe just getting a Ray Davis more involved.
And if Ray Davis gets more involved, I'm going to give you a comparison here to kind of put in perspective of something that you looked at very disgusting last year. Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler finishes complete opposite, finished outside the top 24. He finishes running back 26. Where does Austin Eckler live? In the passing game. He finishes running back 6, but if you look at points per game, James Cook, 13.6, and even on an abysmal year, where, again, he wasn't as healthy as 2, Austin Eckler averaged 13.2 points per game. So, like, for the most part, on a points per game basis, they're almost the same player, and they're looked at night and day differently. And I like James Cook. Like I said, I just traded for him out of value. I give up Matt Stafford
I think that's
a
great
Superflex
value.
league. And I needed running back help, and I had Matt Stafford was my 5th running back, and it's why you keep drafting good positions to grab guys to help. So I looked at Austin Eckler as my 3rd or James Cook as my 3rd running back, who was younger, who
I have no problem with that.
I hope slides into that role, right? That PPR running back role that like they get a guy. I actually hope they get a guy to be the guy to be a dual share running back, because I would actually like to see him more involved in the passing game and used there compared to in between the tackles. So I like that sell on the value where he is today. So we're back with our Nerd Herd episode.
We're doing something a little different.
A little different. A little Rich versus Garrett.
Yeah, we're going head to head, toe to toe. We're going to pick some opposite sides of some players, some situations, and we're going to discuss friendly debate on where we're at.
You can easily get the Nerd Herd show by joining the Nerd Herd. Get all the great tools we offer, like the Dynasty GM, the number one Dynasty app on the market. Go ahead and check it out. It's integrated with Sleeper, so you actually use the Dynasty GM app in the Sleeper app. It's one of the only Dynasty apps you could possibly download. Go check out the App Store. You can download it for free and use it in a generic form to kind of get a feel for it. And check it out. You get so much. You get the film room, the Nerd Score, the extra podcast. We have a lot more coming for the Nerd Herd as well. But we give you a lot for the price of a cup of coffee per month. So make sure you join the Nerd Herd. And if you don't mind, leave us a rating and review. This time of the summer, people are looking for things to listen to. Definitely Dynasty shows, fantasy football shows that last all year. You leaving us a rating and review helps us out a ton. We really appreciate it where you listen. And if you're not paying attention to our YouTube channel, Garrett has been pumping out tons of content. We got so many guys on there. We just did an interview. You just did an interview with Connor Rogers on there.
Yep.
We have
Danny Kelly.
Danny Kelly's
coming
up. We just did one with Matt Harmon. There's so many stuff on their YouTube. And on top of that, many other videos. So make sure you hit that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. And honestly, I'm not a big YouTube guy, but I saw if you leave a comment on a video, it really helps the algorithm. So
boost things up.
If you listen to the show and you like it, go ahead and drop a positive comment on the YouTube channel. Help us out as well. Ding. These are all, and those are just little things you do to help support the show
for free.
It takes a couple minutes. I mean, even if you don't watch YouTube that much, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, help out the nerds, help out the herd. We are constantly trying to grow here to help you get better tools to what? Win ships.
Win.
Hey.
Talk to you next week.
Adios.